On behalf of Beacon House, the organizer of School of Tomorrow event, I would like to welcome you to Guardians of the Future, the 15th edition of SOT event. The non-profit SOT event series was launched by Beacon House in 2000 as a part of social responsibility and to help inform the direction of the organization while also engaging global communities in conversation shaping the future of societies and our world. We would like to thank UBL for its continued support for SART event over the past many years. Once again, UBL is our lead sponsor for the 15th edition. Our key sponsors include My Backpack, CamK Books, and Paramount Books. Lastly, we also thank our SOT partners, including Google, BNU, and many others who have contributed to the event in innumerable ways. My name is Abdul Hamid. I am moderating this session. We have four panelists, and let me introduce those panelists one by one. Of course, very briefly, they have a vast experience, cross-cultural experience, but we have short of time. Anne-Marie Hessel is Chief Executive of NASAN, the National Association for Special Needs and Disabilities, the leading membership charity that exists to champion, connect, and support those working in the education community for the early year to schools. Post 16 specialist schools and wider setting with for children and young people with SEND, SEND and learning differences. Anna Marie is steadfast in her resolve that high quality education should be a right for all children and young people. She will be participating online. The next panelist is also online, Gil Brackenberry, Director, UCL Center for Inclusive Education, a great institution. She developed and led the specific learning difficulty dyslexia MA and the special and inclusive education MA delivered in Cairo, Egypt. She now lectures in special education needs, inclusive pedagogy, language and literacy development, and difficulties and supervision skills for leaders. She is passionate about making a difference for children with SEN through engaging with practitioners through knowledge exchange. Our third eminent speaker is Iram Mumtaz. Iram is the founder and the managing director of Institute of Dyslexia, Education and Attitudinal Studies, Ideas, established in September 2013. This is the first institution in Islamabad which takes a pragmatic approach in helping children with dyslexia or specific learning disabilities. She is a reputed resource person on inclusive education and teacher preparation. Our last panelist, Maheen Gul Malik, is the founder of Lahore Autism Center, the most difficult task, a first of the kind institute of autistic and neurodiverse children. Maheen has been involved with capacity building and training of public sector officials and non-profit organizations in the field of international law and human rights and has worked on projects for institutions including in research Society for International Law. Now I will be calling these panelists. So first of all, I will request Anna Marie. Anna Marie, are you ready for that? I would like to you talk about the teacher development programs because we have a problem with teachers and with the, particularly the inclusive pedagogy. If you can explore these things and guide us, how can we do this because our teachers are lacking that inclusive pedagogy and we are facing quite problem. So isn't this your turn now? Anna Marie.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome and to join you here today. It's amongst you all. England, in the UK, inclusive education direction, we have very much to do, and that is our teacher. So in schools, I'd like to say that we should think on transforming lives for all children, and they can ensure that teaching straight inclusive practice. That's not straightforward approach. Careful consideration approach of the environment, the practice within the club, and we really, a quality where the teacher, the learning in the classroom is key. I framed within something called a approach. So the whole, whether that is an early years setting, a school, whether that is a setting, the intent, and it's actually in the class. It's everybody working together with parents, that they make towards the education individual needs. I think I've probably said enough. I know that you'll have lots of, so please say if you would like, or if you wish to bring other to come back to me.
Gil Blackberry. I invite Gil Blackberry to please help us to understand the whole school approach in inclusive education.
Well, thank you so much for the conference. I'm really excited to be here. I will share some of my thoughts. We all do things slightly differently in different countries, and we can all learn forward to hearing other perspectives from other people in this conference. But I will tell you how we approach whole school change. So what we call knowledge exchange approach, and the reason that we do this is researchers have been seen to be in their ivory towers, that they are from reality, from the real world, and what we want to do is change that. We want research to practitioners, but we need to hear the practitioner's voice. We need to hear what teachers hear, what the context that teachers are working in, what are their concerns, what are their barriers. As researchers can respond to that and inform new research. So change in schools, we have to have on board leaders. If leaders are not motivated to change, to include children with different kinds of special educational needs and disabilities, that this is not their path, then change won't happen. So leaders are principals of schools, heads of school governments. So we need from the top a real commitment that we want to include children in our schools. Now I know that there's some controversy over the context where some children are going to be better served either as in unit or in different kinds of schools. But I want change in mainstream and what that might look like. So we work a leader, and I call it an enthusiastic teacher, somebody who's really to make those changes. So so we need a group of people to a vision for change, whatever that might be, about including children with special educational needs and disabilities. That look like it might be a child who's got autism, who's got dyslexia, struggling with reading and writing, who has challenging behaviour. So this within the school are going to work together for a change of vision. We start off with what we call an audit, and that is where a school looks at what they are currently doing, what it is that their strengths are their areas that they wish to develop, that the areas that they need support on. So as a school led by these key people, they audit what they're doing. Should we work on the things that we're not doing well at all? What we need to do is work on the areas starting to make a difference with and we want to improve. And it may be things like where we want to differentiate to ensure that then the needs of all children. Autistic child, we want to have a visual timetable, something that makes it very clear to a child exactly what they're doing throughout the day. And what works for autism will work for all children in the past. This is one of the key methods. When we're talking about including all children that support children without, and then I'm now going to contradict, because every child, and if we see children all differently, then we will start to come together. And so this group of people, this coalition of love vision for change, supported by an audit that identifies what areas they want to prioritise. And then the school develops along those with support from us. In the Centre for Inclusive Education, we support to facilitate that change through an action plan. And this is very important that schools have what they're trying to work towards. And the key with this change is problem solving. You monitor your progress, you monitor the data going along this journey, and then at the end you share the good practice for everybody to explore their learning journey. Now, I don't want to take opportunities for others to speak as well, but I just want to say that there are three levels. There's the school level and there's the individual level, and where we need to be working at all. Knowledge within the school, within the individual teachers and beliefs. But my final comment is that we need the whole community. We need parents and more that the community we're working with is on board for including all children, one building, one context. Thank you.
I'm going to invite Mumtaz. Mumtaz has done a wonderful job in educating dyslexic children. She has an institute in Islamabad, and please tell us how can we include dyslexic children in mainstream education. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum ji. First of all, let me briefly tell you about my journey. I started teaching by choice 30 years back. I was a mainstream teacher. Then during my experience, I realized there are quite a few children in my class who had a lot of learning difficulties. And then I had a nephew who also had learning difficulties. And since, like, there wasn't much teacher training given to us in Pakistani schools, you join and then they're hands-on, you learn a lot of trades. So I really wanted to help him out, and I found out about this institute in Karachi, Reed, and from there I learned about dyslexia. I did the course and became a remedial therapist. And the alarming situation as far as dyslexia is concerned in Pakistan, that there are only 3 registered institutes, that too they are private, 2 in Karachi and 1 IDEA, that is mine, that caters to the north of Pakistan. That's the only institute. Due to the lack of awareness, hardly anyone knew about dyslexia. According to international statistics, 15 to 20% children in each class are dyslexic. And my toughest part in this journey, challenging journey, was educating the educationist and educating the people sitting at the helm of affairs. So you've already learned about from our 2 esteemed guests what needs to be done. I'll briefly tell you what we did in our humble capacity. My husband was serving in the Navy, so when I moved back home, I knew that I had to open up an institute for the children living in the north of Pakistan, and we laid the foundation of ideas. And then again, I knew that in my humble capacity, how much can I achieve? So without the patronage of the government, not be able to achieve my goal to get recognition for dyslexic children. If we apply the international statistics of 15 to 20% children in each class, that comes to almost 12 million children who are dyslexic. And everybody was clueless, the parents, the child himself, and the teachers, of course. And whatever research was going on in Pakistan, because I'm always on the lookout looking for research related to learning difficulties. And one of the major reasons for the dropout from school, the substance abuse, the petty crime, was corporal punishment. These are the very children who are abused, and the mental stress, and the alarming rate of suicides in our country. When these children are shunned by the society. Another alarming statistics, international statistics, majority of the juvenile delinquents are dyslexic. So we embarked on this mission, and we contacted the parliamentarians, and I would like to share the good news that this 9 years of my journey, after opening my institute in Islamabad, we were able to get the dyslexia bill approved last month, which was October. And it really meant a lot to me, but October is International Dyslexia Awareness Month. And we were really fortunate that because of our team leader, Zaib Jafar, who is an MNA and who is the Parliamentary Secretary of Education, she spearheaded the campaign and we got the bill approved. Now it has become a law. So good news for all the school owners, all the educationists, all the people living here, in fact, all the stakeholders, that now it will be mandatory for all the educational institutions to be inclusive. We keep hearing about the word inclusion. Yes, our school is inclusive, but after working in government schools, private schools, VIP schools, all sorts of schools, I realize the most abused word is inclusion. There is no inclusion, I'm sorry to say. This is a harsh reality in Pakistan. When people don't even know about, differently abled children, and dyslexia nobody knew about. In Pakistan, we only know about regular kids and children with special needs. So we have schools for regular kids and special schools where just one therapist is looking after children with different disabilities. No one knew about dyslexia, which falls in the gray area, even autistic kids. These kids are gifted. If you look at the long list of dyslexic, even 80% of American presidents are dyslexic. So I always start with the positive note. Look at it. And I would like to share that I'm here in this August occasion that 20 years back when I became a remedial therapist and my children were going to Beacon House, Islamabad, the main branch. So I approached the head office and I told them that I would like to join you as a remedial therapist. So they were clueless. They said, we don't know what a remedial therapist does. So why don't you join us as a teacher? I said, well, this is the need of the hour. You've already got 40 plus branches. So it's high time you made a provision and took remedial therapists on board. Anyway, they didn't listen to my advice. I did not accept their offer as an English teacher. And my challenge continued. Had I accepted their offer, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So I worked hard. And because that is what I'm saying, that inclusion, first of all, we need to understand this terminology. First of all, and then spreading awareness about dyslexia and different disabilities. Dyslexia is not a disability. The moment you use the word disability, everybody jumps to the conclusion, yes, this child belongs in a special school. They are highly gifted children. And the teachers' training, again, the most abused profession here in Pakistan is teaching. So it's high time, all of us sitting here, all the stakeholders, because I love attending such events where we learn a lot from each other. But what is the end result? If in our humble capacity, we were able to get the dyslexia bill, so it's just a suggestion to the management that at the end of this, there should be some, like policy-making points, take the government on board and try to revamp the education system and fix the lacunas which are there. We keep talking about inclusion, but unfortunately, it is just, like I said earlier, most abused word. So a lot of work needs to be done, starting from the school owners. Do they really want their schools to be inclusive? First of all, they need to train their teachers that what exactly, the foreign models are already there. We have got such celebrities sitting here, right? It's an honor for me, by the way, sitting next to him, who have already done such an amazing job. So pick up those models and let's adopt them here. And of course, we need to take all the stakeholders that involves the parents. Because here in Pakistan, parents do not have any role. They just attend the PTM meetings and hear a lot of complaints, a lot of blame game goes on, the school blaming the parents blaming the school, we are paying you so heavily, how come my child is not doing enough? And please, a request to all the educationists, get out of this number mania. I call it a sickness. Respect your child's talent. Accept him the way he or she is. Break the molds. Do not try to fulfill your broken dreams or unfinished dreams and ask your child to become a doctor or engineer. Accept him the way he is. And the onus lies on the teachers. Of the parents, a child is most close to the teacher. And let me share another incident of mine. When I was a regular teacher, there was this young boy in my class. He was 10 years old and he was just like a zombie. And I was just a regular teacher. I asked the management, what's wrong with him? Why doesn't he respond? I came to know that his mother committed suicide in front of him. If I had a choice, like I keep hearing from the teachers when I'm training, we don't have the time, so many number of classes, children we have, how can we give individual attention? So I tell them, when the rest of the class is doing their classwork, that is the time you give those 10, 15 minutes to those children who need them, 15 to 20% who are there. And I started working with that child, and by the end of the year, he scored 2nd position in the class. So a lot depends on the teacher to make or break a child's life. So if we want our setup to be inclusive, now the whole world is a global village. All info is just at a tap of your cell phone. When you listen to all the celebrities and watch movies, please take out 1 hour and train yourself. And that is how I did. And I was very fortunate that I went to a convent school taught by Irish nuns. So whenever I talk about my training, that was my best training. I had the most beautiful school days, non-judgmental. You know, they taught us empathy, compassion, hard work, and fair play. That is what is missing in our educational system. So first of all, we need to look at the root causes and then work on what exactly is inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The studies we have done in schools, it seems that majority of the dyslexic children are in schools, but they are not well supported. So they are dropped off frequently. Now I'm going to invite Maheen Gul. Maheen Gul is working with the children with ASD, autism, and it's the most difficult case. And there is a hard debate in Pakistan whether they should be included in the mainstream or not. We have not resolved this issue, so it's going on. And I would request Maheen that tell us how can we bring those children back to school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Assalamu alaikum. I would first like to just touch upon the themes of this talk, which is a way to think differently about differences. So we will be talking about inclusion, of course, and differences and diversity. And lastly, but not least, equity, which is very different from equality. So going to inclusion, we've spoken about the term here, but we haven't really discussed what it is. Inclusion is a mindset, I would say. And when we talk about a mindset, it obviously involves all the stakeholders, as all the esteemed guests have already mentioned. For me, inclusion is a human right, I would say. And any human right, which if it has to be implemented, requires will of the stakeholders. So it obviously boils down to whether the schools are willing or not, because the laws are there now. As Dr. was asking, what is the way forward? The laws are there. We have a federal law in place and we have provincial laws in place. But who is going to implement those laws? That's where, that's the burning question. I think what we really need to ask is a school matching all the benchmarks about whether or not it is inclusive? And in Lahore, we have a couple of schools. I'm sitting in one, which is an inclusive school, and I do have personal experience. So I think that inclusivity is on the cards, but a lot more needs to be done. The first thing we need to look at when looking at a mainstream school, if it's inclusive, is whether it's flexible or not in its approach towards students. So I won't just talk about autistic children, but all children who are neurodivergent require some kind of accommodation, whether they are in a mainstream setting or a special ed setting. One bill doesn't fit all. So is the school flexible? Is it not? Is something that can be seen whether or not it has a particular SEND policy in place. And any parent, it's up to a parent when you go to a school, sorry, when you go to a particular school, you get a copy of the SEND policy. Is the policy something that you want your child to study under? Other than that, we have to make sure that a school is equitable. Now, equitable is not equality, as we know. It's just a part of jargon. We can't say that if all the children are sitting an exam, the differently able children will also sit that exam. That is where the individual education plans come in, and that is where the SENCO, or the Special Education Needs Coordinator, comes in. And every parent's, I think, right is to know who is the Special Education Needs Coordinator at a school where the child is going to be attending. Is that SENCO capable of dealing with all different neurodivergent needs or not? I think Idam pointed out that how can one psychologist or one coordinator look after autism, Down syndrome, CP, so many different neurodivergent needs that are there. So we really need to look at these things before enrolling a child in a particular school. Other than that, I feel that the whole school approach that everybody's talked about, key players are, there are two key players. the teachers and the parents. So when the teachers and the parents become these antagonists or two opposing parties, I don't think it works that way. I didn't start off, maybe I should have started off that my son is autistic, which is why, being a lawyer, I shifted focus and opened Lahore Autism Center. And he's 12 now, and he did attend a mainstream school in Pakistan for the first 4 years of his educational life. And we had a great time. I think the reason behind that was that I was very involved with the teachers. I didn't just drop him there and then expect the teachers and the LSA to do everything for him. I was very much part, still am very much part of his team. The reason for shifting him from an inclusive setting to my own setting, there are many reasons for that. Of course, children change with age. They require different things which our schools are not yet equipped. I would say yet, because schools are very receptive. Schools are making collaborations. My own center has collaborations with schools in Lahore, including TNS and Newlands, that we can offer them teacher training, and schools are very receptive, but there is a long way to go. So my suggestion, Dr. Saab, would be that yes, inclusivity is very important, but just like implementing a curriculum without thinking about it, we can't just implement inclusivity across all schools and across all settings. We need to make sure, are these settings suitable and equipped? My answer is no. From personal experience, and I think schools are not, no one takes offense in this when I say no, because they are willing to get the help. There are no on-site, for example, speech and language pathologists. There are no on-site occupational therapists full-time. They are not present there. So I feel that first, these changes need to be put into place if you really want an inclusive setting. Other than that, we have to understand that there are some children who do fit into an inclusive setting, and there are some children who don't. And it has nothing to do with the school in place. It has to do with the needs of a child. So again, for example, an autistic child, you know, autism is a spectrum. It's not a gradient. You're not low functioning, high functioning. You are spread across a spectrum. You may be high functioning in one particular thing, and you may be low functioning in one particular thing, and you are still the same person. So such children require their needs to be met. These needs can be met within a mainstream setting, provided we have all technical expertise present. If we don't have the technical expertise present, the schools need to be flexible. How can a school be flexible? And which, again, going back to TNS, because my son was there, I will mention it, they were very, very flexible. I was allowed to take him out after 3 hours, for example. The day I wanted to take him riding, I was allowed to take him out 3.5 hours into the school day when I had to take him to a speech session. So schools, if they want to be inclusive, they need to be flexible also. Right? Flexibility brings with it, I think, again, I would talk about inclusivity as a human right, because inclusion is in itself a human right, and it is a means towards achieving other human rights. So communication, teachers need to have a very welcoming approach towards children who are non-verbal. And again, a cliche as it may sound, non-verbal does not mean non-communicative. A child can speak in various different ways other than words. These days we have AAC, which is augmentative technology, that you can use iPads for various, there are programs, Prologo to go to. There are so many assistive wear programs which children are using. My own center uses these programs, and schools, again, are very receptive. Schools have the money. I'm talking about private schools now. Government schools, I can leave the discussion to people working with the government, but private schools have the resources, just need the will and the push. And if we can talk about children being communicative without words, and private schools accepting such children, I think true inclusion is a possibility, because children who don't, in my experience, I have seen children who are not speaking a lot are extremely receptively intelligent. So just because they're not expressive doesn't mean that they can't be included in a mainstream classroom. So a mainstream classroom, again, talking from an inclusion point of view, will require a resource room, I would say. And again, private schools have the resources, they have the rooms even, but are those rooms equipped? No, they're not. They may have some fine motor occupational therapy material in a basket. They may have some, I would say, beads, again, very, very basic things. A resource room is much more than that. And I swear, just go to Pinterest, don't even need to go through any curriculums, and you get your answers there. So to be inclusive, the infrastructure needs to be inclusive. And lastly, the teachers. I have seen in my own experience, and this is very, very sad, again, nothing to do personally. My son had a great time at his school, but I have seen it because now I'm working with schools in a different capacity, and I have seen that when a differently abled or a disabled child does something, it is viewed as a big deal. I mean, I've seen it. If a differently abled child is pulling at a plant, the coordinator will come, the teacher will come, the LSA will be called, oh, he pulled this leaf. And the other children are wreaking havoc. And I swear the only difference is they are talking, even if they're talking nonsense. And this child is maybe just flapping his hands in the cutest possible way and plucking at a leaf because he wants to look at it closely. And that becomes a big deal. So, approach needs to change. A welcoming environment needs to be created within schools. Parents need access. My recommendation to all schools who claim to be inclusive is CCTV access to all parents. I'm a parent.
Thank you very much. We're out.
Gigi, please. We can probably have that for questions.
Sorry.
No problem.
I'm sorry for that.
Thank you.
I really don't know whether we have fixed the connectivity with the international speakers. I don't know whether we are ready or not. But anyway, I think this is time to ask questions to our panelists. And Daniel, would you like to say something? No? No. If you are sitting on this stage, you cannot say no.
Shall I say three controversial things? Three controversial things. Firstly, can I just, before I say that, you do realize these are the heroes of inclusion in Pakistan. They're sitting right in front of you. It's an honor to be on the stage with you. You know what? With the greatest of respect to these wonderful people on the screen, Anne-Marie and Jill, who I'm big fans of, by the way, hello, I don't know if you can hear me, and myself, it's easy for us to get into the career of inclusion. You're forging paths that no one else has done here. It's amazing. You're inspirational to me. I sit here inspired by you. You've changed the law. It's unbelievable. Okay. Do you know, last week, my eldest boy, I've got 3 children, my eldest boy is 9, he was diagnosed with dyslexia. So I said to him, look, there's good news. You're already second to top in your class. He's very bright, in a very good school. But now the good news is you have dyslexia, so it's time for you to take your place at the very top of the class because only the greatest geniuses in the world have dyslexia. And now you have the equipment in your brain to be able to do it. So congratulations. A lot of SEN comes with superhero-style brain mechanics. And I mentioned yesterday as my keynote that I had ADHD at school. I didn't complete school. I didn't get any A-levels or a first degree. But you know, one of the things which comes with ADHD is hyperfocus. I don't know if you know that, but it doesn't mean people with ADHD can't not focus. It means I can hyperfocus, I can speed read, and I can memorize, and I can cut through complex material, which is why I've written 3 books, 100 papers, and a PhD, because I can slice through knowledge with a hyperfocus. Okay, I couldn't pass any GCSEs or A-levels, but who cares about that? All right. But I wanted to say something. Shall I get to the controversy? There is no such thing as SEN. That's the first controversy. Let me explain what I mean. I don't know if you can conceive of this, but every child, every human being learns differently. Of course there are commonalities, of course there are. But every child learns differently. And to put a label on a child, look, this child is autistic, this child is dyslexic, it's not going to help you as a teacher. Shall I tell you why? You could have 3 children in your class with autism, and they all behave and learn and act completely differently. So what does it help you to know that, to think of them as being autistic, to give them that label? Nothing. You can have 3 children with 3 very different diagnoses, and they all behave very similarly. They present similarly. So what does it help you to have this label? It doesn't help the parents. Unless you want to be proud of it and boast about it like I do, then what's the point? So, maybe there's a point, and that is because it tells the teacher that there's something different about this child. But I've got news for you. There's something different about every child, isn't there? So then what exactly is the point? And if you do label a child, and by the way, I'm not suggesting that medical doctors and psychologists, they can label as much as they can do super labels, a whole long sheet of labels, massive labels. But for teachers and teaching, they need to know an individual, a real child, what's really going on for them. The second illusion is that there is no difference at all between really wonderful teaching and inclusive teaching. There is no difference. I wrote a whole book on it. I wrote a whole online training, which is, a global inclusive teaching initiative. We want millions of teachers around the world to learn how to be inclusive teachers. But I can tell you something, there isn't anything in there which isn't just good old teaching. Do you know what good old teaching is? You have good relationship with the children, you know the individual children, and you tailor your lesson to individual needs. You facilitate good learning. Make it fun and nice and good. You've all seen outstanding teaching. That's inclusive teaching. It's not rocket science, although apparently rocket science isn't that complicated for people who are good at rocket science. That's the second illusion. Do you buy that? I mean, we're not talking like, a different thing. And there's one other thing I'll add to this. I don't know what you think as teachers, but I think it's unfair for you as teachers to have to teach children that you're not trained for. It's like asking a chemical engineer to build a bridge. But you're an engineer. You should be able to build a bridge. Well, hang on. I studied the principles of engineering. I know something about it, but I'm a chemical engineer. I can't build a bridge. And I think it's radically unfair to ask a teacher to teach a child that they're not trained for. And so I think the commitment is on us. I want to shift the conversation in, I don't think anyone thinks these are controversial points. I'm very disappointed. I'm trying to be controversial. I want to say one more thing, I'll pass on. I personally think that when you label a child, what you're really doing is you're pathologizing the child, you're problematizing. Oh, look everybody, we have a problem over here. That child's a problem. And do you know where the real problem is? It's not with the child, it's with us. It's the education system that we're forcing them to go through, and we're the ones who have to adapt to them, not them to us. We have the problem. The SCN is not with the child, it's with us. We, the teachers, have the problem, not the child. And the good news is, it's not that hard to be an inclusive teacher. I keep saying this. I'm sorry to reiterate it. Shall I look at my notes to see if there's... Oh, yes. I think there's a difference between identifying needs, when you become aware of a child's individual needs, versus seeking the problem. You know what happens when you seek a problem? You find it. Oh, I've been looking for problems. I found one here, and I found one there, and I found one here, and suddenly it's all about problems. I think one of the things which I personally have suffered from in my individual life, but also I've bared witness to many parents and hundreds and thousands of schools that my organization has worked with, is that SEN, special educational needs, and inclusion has become associated with negativity, problems, negativity, problems. And the worst problems for school systems are that it costs more money and more time and more stress. It's probably a note to say, get Daniel to shut up. So I want to, let me end on that point. We need to shift the conversation from it being all about problems to about being positivity, celebrating children, realizing that the work is for us as teachers to do, and it's not that complicated. I hope that's my controversial points done. Done? I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's time to raise questions. We can take 2 questions only. So be the first. Okay. Tell your name and the question.
So yes, I was touching upon a very important thing because as a mother myself, I used to keep thinking the whole day, what is he doing at school? Because just hearing it from somebody's mouth is not enough, especially when your child is autistic and can't really tell you exactly what happened. So CCTV, I don't mean you should give links in the parents' phones, but there should be a room designated where any parent who wants to come and observe or wants a particular part of the day replayed, they should have access to that. Because when you run, I think any school should have that, honestly, but when you run an inclusive setup, this is one of the most important things you need to do for a parent's peace of mind and for the safety of the children, that you have transparency. Of course, allowing parents to attend sessions, sit in those sessions, learn from therapists is very important, and we have we give parents complete autonomy there at our center. But I understand mainstream schools have their reservations, and they have their difficulties because of other students also in the class. So at least give access for a CCTV coverage to parents, which they can come to a particular room and watch. So that's all. I think it's very easy to do. They have the money, they have CCTV in place. Why not? What are they hiding? That's my question.
Thank you very much. We have to be very brief in answering the question. I have any other questions from the audience? Because I have a couple of questions written on the cards, and I think I need to read them. Some of the questions have no specific answer. For example, there is a question, how long it will take for inclusion be implemented? So nobody can answer that question, that you can.
Yes. First of all, we have already started working on the pilot project, because this is the first time in the history of Pakistan, after 75 years, acceptance and awareness about dyslexia. Dyslexia is real. There are 15 to 20% children are already present in our mainstream schools. And of course, research. Our pilot project, we are doing research, prevalence of dyslexia, because since it's a language-based problem, so our children, our regional languages, we can have dyslexic children in our regional languages, then awareness, then teachers training, then building the resource. So this pilot project is for 6 months. And inshallah, I'll be sharing the results with you all. And this is just the first step. And at least we have made some difference. We have started talking about it.
I think the person who raised that question is satisfied now. We have a couple of pilot projects in Pakistan. The fate of those projects are not good, but anyway, change is a long process in education. There is another question: what are equitable grading methods that can be used for students with special needs? I can try answer if. I think there is a couple of methods, and we talk about multi-norm assessments. Also, we talk about I think the HEC, Higher Education Commission, has done a good job. They have introduced policy for students with disabilities in universities, and what they have used term is reasonable accommodation. So they have elaborated procedures how reasonable accommodation can be created in schools, in universities, in classrooms. It also includes the assessment procedures. So there are assessment procedures, but don't try to compare them with other students. You know, we have to have a different norm for those students. But I'm not talking about all students with disabilities. Some of the students with disabilities can compete. And I have experience of a blind student when we allow them to use audio recording. We use the computer program. Their performance was comparable. We also have experience of including 40 deaf students in our university. And they are in 4-year program. And first batch has graduated. And they have very comparable performances, and they have been achieving A grade, B grade, C grade. You know, normally we have that. So we have experienced that one.
Dr. Saab, I'd like to add something to
I'm
equitable.
I'm told that just 1 minute left. So in 1 minute, what I'm going to do, on behalf of, this is script, on behalf of Waken House, I thank Anna Marie. She tried to talk to us. I don't know what happened to the connectivity. Gil Blackenberry, Iram Mumtaz, and Mahdeen, and Gulmarg, and Daniel Sobel. We have been having wonderful ideas and experiences, and thank you very much for sharing your valuable ideas and experience. Along with the audience are also, we are thankful you are here and listening everything with patience, and for participating in SOT edition 15, Guardian of the Future. Please share your feedback about this session through email. We receive you from the SOT team. Thank you very much. We are done with this session.